What's up YouTube, Jeff back again from High on Android, DopeTechDaily.com, and today I'm bringing you guys my top 5 smartwatches of 2015. I'm just going to run down the list, give some of the criteria that I've used in making the decision, pretty similar to my top 5 Android phones of 2015. Now I didn't want to just do Android Wear with the watches because obviously there are a lot of other watches out there that run different operating systems like the Apple Watch, and of course Tizen, which runs on the Gear S and the Gear S2, so I'm including all smartwatches. And of course, I'm only including smartwatches that I've used because otherwise how would I know if the smartwatch is any good? So all of the smartwatches I've reviewed and worn throughout the year. Basically, in terms of the criteria, I have included price, the quality of the smartwatch, the available apps, build quality, all of those sort of things, software quality, and of course, sort of reconciling that with the value. So just like I did with the Android phones, the Moto X Pure Edition made it into the top 5 because it was a cheaper phone that had flagship specs. So we're trying to take all of that into account, the value, the price, everything that you get with the watch, and also just how much I personally enjoyed wearing the watch. So checking in at number 5 on my list is the Galaxy Gear S2. Now probably a lot of people are going to say this should be higher up on the list, but personally I think this watch is incredibly small on wrist. I just don't like how small it is. I'm used to wearing bigger watches. If you go back and check my full review of the Gear S2, my main positive points for this watch is that it has this beautiful rotating bezel, which I like a whole lot. It does have the standalone apps, of course, which is another great positive for the Gear S2. But I did have a few nagging issues with it, like delayed notifications, the battery life wasn't that great, and also it did not have a speaker, which was one of the best features of the previous iteration of this watch, which was the Gear S. So those are some reasons that I didn't enjoy it. It's still a nice little watch, and if you have a smaller wrist or you like Tizen OS, you're in the Samsung ecosystem, it's definitely a watch you could check out. It does have a cheaper build quality with the rubber strap, but if that doesn't bother you, it's definitely a nice watch to check out, and that's why it's at number 5 on my list. Moving right along to the next watch on my list, I have for you guys the Apple Watch. So the Apple Watch, you guys know I'm not a huge iOS user, so I don't use my iPhone as much as my Android phones. But the Apple Watch actually was a watch that I liked for several reasons, and I do still wear it when I'm rocking my iPhone. Now, a few of the things that I like about the Apple Watch is, of course, the navigation system. I actually really do like it, how you can get to individual apps. There are also a lot of apps available. You can see it's got Tweetbot on there. I've got Slack, which we use for team communications at High on Android. You've got a lot of nice apps on the Apple Watch, and it really is a beautiful sort of screen and build quality. I've got the stainless steel version with the leather strap. This is the classic buckle. And the build quality on the Apple Watch, you can see I've sweated in this watch. I actually have worn it, so this can prove to you that I have worn this watch quite a bit, even though I don't use my iPhone a lot. But overall, the Apple Watch has a great build, and if you use iOS, this thing is definitely going to be one that gives you the most features, as with Android Wear, you lose some of the features if you're using it with an iPhone, even though you can use your Android Wear device with an iPhone. You got a decent number of watch faces. That's one of the things that sort of took it down for me. There weren't as many watch faces as I would like to see. I do like the integration, the glances with Instagram and some of the other apps that I use often. And overall, it's just a nice complement if you have an iPhone. The only reason that it didn't make it higher on my list, I do like the build quality, is again that I mainly use my Android phones the majority of the time. So for that reason, I couldn't really rank the Apple Watch higher because it's not one that I really use the majority of the time. So that is a nice option for you though if you do use your iPhone. If you have an iPhone that's your main phone or your only phone, definitely give the Apple Watch a look, and that's number 4 on my list for 2015. Next on the list, we have the Huawei Watch. So the Huawei Watch, which is a great Android Wear device that has a high PPI screen resolution, definitely gives you a solid build. Here I have the black stainless steel variant. This is definitely one of the better built watches that we've gotten on the Android Wear side. It's got one of the higher resolutions we've seen on the Android Wear side. It's got a very, very nice overall fluid software experience, as you expect with most of the Android Wear devices. All of the standard stuff you get with the Android Wear software, so not a whole lot to say about that. But the overall just look and feel of this looks more like a everyday sort of watch that you might wear, like a Seiko or Tissot or Tag Heuer or something like that. And the build quality is really beautiful, and Huawei did a great job presenting this watch, from everything down to the packaging, the build quality, and everything. The only thing that I really had an issue with were a couple things when I did the full review. One, you've got this proprietary charger, connects right here, and not wireless charging. That's one thing that's a downside. The other thing, of course, is that I mentioned the vibration motor on this watch is relatively weak, and I missed quite a few notifications for that reason. So that's the only reason it didn't make it higher up on my list. I know a lot of people are going to say this should have been number one. Again, this is really a lot to do with how I use my watch and what I've had my personal experience. So of course, definitely drop your comments below. We can discuss it in the comments, but this is number 3 on my list for 2015. All right, checking in at number 2. Now, a lot of people are probably going to ding me on this and say this was a 2014 watch, but this is a top 5 smartwatches I've used in 2015 list, and this is still one that I used probably just as often as any other watch. This is the original Galaxy Gear S. Now, for a lot of people, they're going to say this watch looks pretty gaudy on the wrist, but for me, it's a perfect size. I love having the huge screen on here. You can read full emails. You can do a whole lot of awesome stuff. The Gear S has some really great features that did not carry over to the Gear S2, such of course as the speaker. And you know, I know you can get the 3G version of the Gear S2. I had the Wi-Fi variant, but in addition to the speaker and the 3G connectivity that you get with the Gear S, which I know you can also get on the new version, you also have this bigger screen. The battery life is probably twice as good on my Gear S as it is on the Gear S2. I said that in the comparison video that I did originally. And of course, that makes it just a better experience, because one of the biggest problems with smartwatches in 2015 is that the battery life is poor. You need to charge it every day. With this watch, even with average usage, I did not need to charge this watch every day, which is a huge plus in my opinion. The only downside, of course, to the Gear S, which is also a downside to the Gear S2, is the lack of available compatible apps with the Tizen operating system compared to Android Wear and iOS. So that is something to keep in mind, but I still love the 3G connectivity, the larger screen, and better battery life on the original Gear S, and is one of my most worn watches. That's why it's at number 2 on my list of top 5 smartwatches for 2015. Coming in at the top spot, probably no surprise as I said this in my review, the Moto 360 2nd Gen. Now, I'm actually really surprised that this ended up being my favorite watch of 2015, as I was not a huge fan of the original Moto 360, but a lot of great improvements have been made to the Moto 360 2nd Gen, including we have better battery life. They changed the design a little bit that makes it a little more comfortable to wear. We have a better processor in here, which doesn't give you any lag at all. Of course, you have the ambient light sensor there, which is going to give you good viewing in any lighting conditions as well. And also the build just looks more like a regular watch. Now, of course, a lot of people do not like the flat tire that's at the bottom, but that's something that you definitely forget about as you use the watch, as you go on using it, and it's really not a problem. So overall, with the Android Wear apps available, the build quality of this watch, the battery life, and everything else that goes along with it, this is definitely the watch that I'm wearing the most right now. I've worn this pretty much the majority of the time since I purchased this watch. This and the Gear S, I sort of go back and forth depending on if I want something that looks like a real watch, or, you know, obviously the Gear S, if we take a look at it, is a much different look than the Moto 360. So just depending on what I want, I switch back and forth between these two. But of course, there are a few things that are downsides to the Moto 360. Again, if you don't like the flat tire, or if perhaps, of course, you want something that has 3G support or speaker capability right now, then that's not going to be the watch for you. But this is definitely my favorite watch of 2015. All right, guys, I appreciate you checking out the video. These were my top 5 watches of 2015. If you would like the video and subscribe if you haven't already, I really appreciate it. Also, drop me a comment below with your favorite smartwatch of 2015. Let me know which watch you're wearing as well. You can find me writing at news.highandandroid.com, dopetechdaily.com as well. You can follow me at Twitter and Google+, the link's in the description. I appreciate you guys watching. I'll see you in the next one.